mentor and a broker and advocate and a voice for our most marginalised communities. If I look back at my childhood as a young person, it was a struggle. All I'm saying is that Waiariki Whānau had just created a safe space. That's what we've done. We don't judge our whānau. The whānau that we work with haven't been loved. They've been pushed to the edge of society. 85% of those that we support have no fathers. The significance of lived experience is that you become a reflection of those in the hope that they see through you light. The biggest thing that I find in what they're trying to look for is they're just trying to look for a sense of belonging, but actually to be loved.
No mai, hoki mai to the Planting Seeds podcast. Today we sit down with Waata Heathcote, a familiar face I knew growing up because when I was younger he was a police officer, but now he's a mentor, broker and advocate for our most marginalised communities in the Bay of Plenty and Waikato through his movement Waiariki Whānau Mentoring. We talk about his upbringing, why he started this movement and the real impact it is having, as well as the net that they've created to catch those who the system continues to fail. This kōrero is raw, honest, and full of hope. Let's get into it. Tēnā tātou Planting Seeds podcast, no mai hoki mai ki tēnei kaupapa. I have with me sitting across on this table is someone that I've seen pretty much my whole life growing up here around Whakatāne. Very, very active in the community. Someone who's very strong-minded, but also has a voice that penetrates because he is disrupting a lot of things. Not only in a small town, but I think it's in bigger scales, because of what's happening on the ground here in Whakatāne with his kaupapa that he'll speak into. But it's my pleasure to invite Waata, tēnā koe, brother.
Tēnā koe, my brother.
Awesome. How are you doing today, my bro?
Yeah, good to be here and share this space with you, bro. And it's probably been a long time coming, but timing's always perfect.
Yeah, timing's always perfect. I really like that. And, for those people who, I guess, getting to know who you are, bro, just want to give it over to you just to introduce yourself, ko waikoe, and, some of the things you get up to.
Yeah, tēnā koe, my brother. Yeah, well, ko ka puterangi te maunga, ko mata atua te waka. Ko whakatāne te awa ko puke ko te iwi, ko nā te rangataua te hapū, ko te pāhau te marae, nunuku hawa hau. Ko Waata Heathcote tōku ingoa. Ko au rangatiro Waiariki Whānau, whakaruru hau, ki Whakatāne, tauranga roturua, kiri rua, kōrero me tukoro hoki. Yeah, tēnā koe, my brother. So obviously my name is Waata, and I'm a mentor and a broker and advocate and a voice for our most marginalised communities across all those locations and further abroad, I mentioned.
It takes a particular person, bro, to do the mahi that you're doing because of like what you say when you're talking about marginalised people or you're talking about marginalised communities. There's a lot of weight that is carried within these spaces, and that's where you've been active in different parts of your chapters of your own life, but it's brought you here to be that, let's call it lights, but you're having impact in these spaces that need it most. And so what drew you into doing that, bro?
Yeah, I suppose if I look back at my childhood as a young person, it was a struggle. Mum and dad struggled for most of their life, but we utilised that energy and what mum and dad were able to do for us to bring us into a place where we are today. It wasn't the easiest of life. I saw things that, not many people would see or a part of. And so taking those learnings of being brought up as a young man, young rangatai here in Whakatāne for most of my life, and I wanted to be able to do it in a way where I wouldn't end up on the other side, but in a more of a pro-social community aspect. And I suppose that's what drove me at that time, to becoming a police officer later on in my life. But looking back at how I got there, it was those learning tools, the the tools that my nan and my koro had given me from a very young age, and how to manaki people first and foremost, whether or not that was through the land, or on the marae as examples, or just being there for people at times of desperation and chaos. I suppose that kind of grew me to a place where I'm now functioning across, multiple communities and regions now, sharing my story with respect to my own lived experience, and being able to allow people to understand a little bit more about who I am, not just a person that maybe sits behind a computer or an office every day. I'm always on the streets because I was actually brought up on the streets in Awatapu as a young person. Not many people know that. Awatapu Drive. And so being brought
Which here
up,
in Whakatāne is classified as the hood.
That's right. And being brought up in that place, it was a beautiful community. And my thoughts are it still is a beautiful community. But where has my whakapapa led me to today in terms of the impact? I'm a lived experience. I've seen many of things come across my eyes during my short life, I like to call it. I'm getting a bit old these days. But utilising those tools of manaakitanga and aroha and giving those and sharing those elements with people that need it most. I suppose in the context of it is, people do know I work with our whānau that we're a patch. And I've got no qualms in sharing that. I don't hide the fact that I support our whānau that we're a patch across all those locations that I mentioned. But what's actually led me to that space is that, having worked for government for a long time, working for the Ministry of Social Development, where I assessed the welfare dependency of the people, then left the ministry and became a sworn officer of the New Zealand Police, and then left New Zealand Police and done some contract and supporting mahi with Orana Tamariki. And if I look at those three ministries that I had worked for, I went from assessing the welfare dependency of our people, then going into the police force and locking up the same people that are lining up at the queue at MSD, and then leaving the police force and then joining Orana Tamariki, where I work with the most high complex rangatei to whom's mothers and fathers I had incarcerated as a police officer. So that's my whakapapa of the system and the persecutive and condemning measures that the system used to continue to denigrate and put people to the lowest pits of the pit. So my responsibility for the community is to be a servant of those that have been sitting in those pits, and being that, I suppose, that voice to support the most marginalised people, to pull them out of that pit and to work with them, to love them, to nurture them as best as we can, so they can understand what their aspirations are, rather than the system and the community portraying them for what's on a piece of paper.
The main thing that I hear a lot from you, and we had a good catch up last week, and I was a part of one of the acknowledgements of one of the spaces of one of the homes that is a safe space for people, Resilience, the coffee shop in Whakatāne. And one of the key things that I heard more than 10 times, I suppose, is lived experience. And that's the differentiating factor between your fellas whānau or whānau mentoring and perhaps other services, is that when you're working with whānau who have a patch that's lived experience, and so there's a different way that we interpret or connect with kōrero when it's coming from their place, eh?
That's right.
And one of the other things that I think aligns to that is that you were able to utilize your upbringing to shape your path. And that's your lived experience, to be able to tautoko whānau within those same kind of, I guess, environments and ways of living. And so can you talk more about that, bro, like the significance of lived experience?
Well, the significance of lived experience is that you become a reflection of those that, in the hope that they see through you, light. And so when you're sitting in that paradigm, and I see it every day with the mahi that we do, as soon as they see that reflection of their light, the whānau start to gravitate towards that. And I've been in that this morning, and I've seen it happen over and over again. because they want to be like that person. They're trying to, I suppose, they're trying to pick up the tools that Mairopu use to be able to pull them out of the deepest, darkest pits. The biggest thing that I find in what they're trying to look for is they're just trying to look for, one, a sense of belonging, but actually to be loved. It's as simple as that. It doesn't take a rocket scientist in our space to figure it out that that's what our whānau are searching for, because the whānau that we work with haven't been loved. They've been pushed to the edge of society. 85% of those that we support have no fathers. They're orphans. They live an orphan mentality because they don't have dads. Either dads have been killed, been incarcerated, never met dad. So they try and find something that they can belong to. And the same goes for our wahine. Our wahine within that particular space are also suffering. So they're looking for that role model that they can dip into to be able to look at their own selves and go, I can be like her, or I can be like him. I know their journey. I know where they've come from. I want to be a part of that. And so that there, through that lived experience, is now causing a ripple effect across the whole of that space, in those spaces or in those locations that we work in. But I give Mairopu the flexibility to shift the streets. I don't place barriers on Mairopu. I allow them to move and shift the streets because they understand the streets better than anybody. And so when you're able to move the streets and you're a reflection of the community, of course what's going to happen is that the whānau are going to start to gravitate to that. And that's what we're seeing within our particular space. So that's some of the context.
That's amazing, to hear, particularly that sense of belonging and the yearning to be loved, which is not just happening within marginalised groups, but that's actually across the board. Yeah. And I think that's the space of resonance and relatability for anyone who's listening to this, is that we all are in that space of wanting a safe place to be ourselves or to be accepted, to be seen, to be heard. And Waiariki Whānau Mentoring is creating that, for a lot of our communities who haven't been able to have access to that in their lives. And so there's a few themes, that I think is coming up for me in that, and even in my own huarahi and speaking with many people, being in different spaces, that seems to be a common factor with a lot of the mamae that we perhaps are still processing or working through, and that is around fatherlessness, and, or it could be even just not having one parent in their life, and that creates such a gap or void, And so what are some kōrero around that you feel might be some findings within that space, bro?
I suppose the findings, if we look back at the whakapapo of our whānau that we're a patch, it started in the 1960s. And of course, if we look at evidence and research, it shows that the urbanisation or shift of our people happened at that same time, leaving their papakainga to move into the bigger cities in order to survive. So money became something. That's when the shift happened within that particular space too, when our young people at that time went into state care, and they were abused through that system. And what we're now seeing now with respect to the serious level of offending that's going on across multiple communities is that it's come out of its seams. It's growing into a beast of a thing that everybody's now trying to take some control of as best as we can. When I look at that, and then I look at the mitigation and or prevention that could have happened prior to that, all I'm saying is that Waiariki Whānau had just created a safe space. That's what we've done. We don't judge our whānau. Every door is open to our families, irrespective if you're Māori, if you're Pākehā, if you're Indian. We allow everybody into our space. And that's now led to not just cohorts of whānau that within the gang environment. And I don't even like utilising that word. Actually, they're our whānau. But for this, and for people to understand, is that there's also other cohorts of marginalised communities, such as our rough sleepers, those that are surf, those that are homeless, those that don't associate themselves to any of those, but are still going through the same struggles in terms of equity or lack of equity in terms of being supported. So I suppose when I look at that in the context of it, the doors are always open, and it's about whānau having the ability to access, because I think that's been the biggest issue, not just a Crown issue, but also a Māori issue. Some of our own people have shut our own people out, and I've got no qualm in saying that, because I experienced it while I was in the government sector. We'll try and get support for whānau, but unbeknown to me at that time, and trying to get that support, I knew that through what I was trying to achieve in terms of triage, it wasn't always, we're unable to assist, or we don't have the funding to help that, and for me that became a real big frustration of how our own people have got caught up in the greed of funding, which equates to business, but have left the people over here who I call now living on the fringe of society. And those are the people that we've lifted out of the deepest, darkest holes, who we work with consistently today. And I suppose that's hence the reason we have the mana that we do in our particular space when it comes to access. We don't have issues with access with whānau. It's easy and natural for us because we have a lived experience that are able to work with them that essentially not many people can.
Yeah. And that's potent, to actually have that. But, access is hope, eh?
Access is hope.
Access is hope, and having these sort of, ways for people to plug in and to have a bit of a gander. And then, as you say, like, that's an opportunity for them to see a potential pathway to be like, oh, there's my healing. Oh, there's someone that I relate to, and then who is actually being able to work through certain things. And, for people who might not understand the network of whānau mentoring, I remember the very, very early stages, bro. We were up at the Lightning Hub, and there was a circle of people, and government came in, and you were basically initiating, this kaupapa, and I was there present in that room. And so years later, you're not only here in Whakatāne, but there are multiple whare here in Whakatāne, but then you're also gone into different locations around the Bay of Plenty and even gone into the Waikato. And so can you talk about what Waiariki Whānau Mentoring is and the different arms, I guess, that it has to support the different kinds of whānau?
Yeah, it's got several different arms in terms of the supports that we have. There comes the operational arm, but there also comes the high level arm, if I can call it that. And so the operational arm is our day-to-day mahi on the streets with our whānau. What does that potentially look like? We've got kaupapa from rongoa Māori through to the clinical scope work with mental health and addiction psychologists, nursing. But what we also have is a huge non-clinical workforce, which is our lived experience. That's spread across the whole of the Bay of Plenty and Waikato. We have multiple supports, whether or not it's laundry services or just sitting down and having a kōrero with people that reach out at any time of the day and night. I suppose the unique part is that whānau can reach out to us 24/7. We're not bounded by an archaic model of 9 till 5. You can't in this type of space because the level of
crises,
crises, the acuity that we're dealing with is at another level. There's a lot of stuff that the community are not even aware of that we do at a very high level. There's only stuff that we can do that not even the police can do. We are the preventer. We are the mitigator in terms of stopping serious harm from happening across multiple communities. I won't go into the breadth of that because it's very intense. But from an operational point of view, we've got 18 available supports or services. I don't even like to call them services because services have let our people down. I just like to call them kaupapa that we have available to work through whatever it is to ensure that the whānau reach their aspirational outcome. What might that be? That might be just walking downtown, holding their partner's hand and saying, I love you.
Milestones, eh?
Milestones. It might be just the fact that dad has the courage to hop out of the car, even though he's got all this korowai over his face, and not being branded any longer. Or the fear of even just hopping out of the car and being stereotyped immediately. Now, that's how they feel all the time. And so I suppose in the privileged position that I'm in, is I get to walk alongside and be a part of that in terms of the momentum shift or a paradigm shift to ensure that these people are heard and seen for who they are, but not for what people think they are any longer.
Make that distinction and that differentiation, because as you say, like a stereotype is basically the majority having a particular perspective.
Yeah.
And so I remember I had this kōrero one time, and, it was one of my first mentors who was sharing, I guess, this concept, and I sort of developed it into my own way, and I put on this whiteboard, what it's a stereo, how are Māori perceived negatively, and then everyone would put it up. It'll be gangs, pōhara, addiction, suicide, just all of the negative stereotypes. And then on the other side, what are all the positive things? And that's basically what everyone sees on a marae, manaakitanga. And then I shared to the room, no matter who I was speaking with, it doesn't matter if I'm Māori or the people who perceive this negatively. If you're Māori, we are all perceived in that way. But then there are some more, I guess, extreme around the obvious, If you do have the korowai, it's like, okay, that's automatic in that stereotype. And that's what we have to kind of like break down, because there is people that are living in these experiences and being able to come back into those higher ways of connecting and being, and that's through the aroha, that's through the manaakitanga. And like, what are the common challenges that you're seeing from people? You don't have to go into depth around specific cases, but what are some of the main things? Is it addiction? Is it mental health? Is it suicide? Or what are the main ones that are coming within these small communities, bro?
Yeah, it's a series of all of that you mentioned and more. I suppose if we go back to whakapapa in terms of when our whānau in the gangs did start to move in that particular space, and that's 65 years now. It's a long time. That's 4 generations deep. What we need to understand as a society is where they have actually come from. Most of them have been physically and sexually abused all their life, which has of course led to the psychological impacts and with respect to the negative socio impact that they've had on communities over that time. Some of the stories that I have heard and sit down and listen to, multiple stories, are heinous. I don't want to go into some of the real deep stuff, but I understand why they've taken that path of joining, because they were going into something, or they were associating them with something where everybody's whakapapa within those particular spaces were quite similar. Talking about hurt people, hey, because that mamae, that hurt, then later on in life comes through the seams, and then we see the chaos that we see within our communities. They go through the justice system as a result of being caught via police for real serious offences. But for me, that's the topical stuff.
Yeah,
I don't work with topical mahi. My mahi and the mahi of my rōpū is to get down get down deep and dirty with the trauma that's been caused on these people, to come into a place of being come into the place of being adherable to the justice system or the police. The issue that I've seen is that not many people want to go down in there and start talking to talk about those things. It's like take a concrete pill and harden the F up. That language there, I stop in its tracks when I hear it, because that mentality has actually caused people to kill themselves. So when we talk about suicide, we're talking about not just pressures in terms of what the whānau are feeling at that particular time, but also the place that they've come from in order to put themselves in a position of having those types of thoughts. It doesn't help when people come over the top of and start speaking a language that just aggravates that whole situation. That's why I've always maintained within Waiariki Whānau is make sure those doors are always open. All my rōpa will always tell you, my thing that I always share is make sure those doors are open. Because if that door is not open, someone can just go around the corner and think to themselves, life is not worth it.
What's the point?
What's the point? And then they do what they do. That's what we're wanting to prevent in our communities. But again, we've become so colonised and working a specific model that doesn't or isn't conducive to the needs of the community that Waiariki Whānau serve. And so I don't conform to any government contract. The government will work with me in order to get the best outcome possible so that we can serve our whānau with flexibility and not to the specifications or criteria of a contract the government give me. I'm very clear on that, because if I am or was to conform to their process, I'd pretty much just be like everybody else, where people continue to fall through the gaps because of that thinking and that archaic business way of thinking. I don't think business. It really aggravates me when I hear people talking about business around me. Our whānau, not business. That's not what it's about. We're there to serve the community with or without government support. It doesn't really matter to a person like me.
And that's always been the energy from the jump though too, eh?
Yeah.
Because there's some trying times in the first few years around like, okay, there might not be as much support, but haere tonu te waka. Yeah. Can you sort of talk about the come up, I suppose, bro? Because, you know, there's all of these different arms that we're talking about, but there was only a dream at the very beginning. And you were doing the majority of it on your own. And so, like, what did they look like in the start around, like, establishing this movement? And that was another thing you said. It's like, this isn't an organization. This is a movement. So can you talk about the early momentum stages, bro?
Yeah, I suppose in terms of my experience with the government, I saw the gap. And so I created our own model of care called Te Waiaio, which is evidenced in research. Basically, through the evidence and the research that was taken, Waiariki Whānau Mentoring are the net catcher for those that continue to fall through the gaps of the system.
Net catcher.
In the community. We're the net catcher. We are a solution. I don't say we are the solution. We are a solution. And we're proving that with the mahi, but also with the reach that we have within the particular space in order to get the outcomes that the whānau desire for themselves. If I go back to 7 years ago, when we first started, I was going through my own mental health journey. I wasn't in a very good place.
What triggered that, bro? What triggered that?
Well, you know, I left a policing career where I was held, you know, in high regard.
I remember you hard, you know, especially if I was going out in town and there's a bro Waata always sort of like, you know, you were always like the face they would always see and feel comfortable around, I suppose.
I knew where I was heading in the police. I knew where I was heading. It was eventually going to be in Wellington. Married my beautiful wife. And then within a month of marrying my wife, I made a decision, just wake up one morning and said I was going to leave the police. I suppose when I look at that at that context of it. I knew where I was heading, but I didn't want to put my wife under the media scrutiny that could potentially come my way at a later stages of policing. So I left. Opened up a produce shop because I knew I learned some of the things that I learned in my early stages of my life working in supermarkets and stuff. And then I decided just to open up a little produce business for me and my wife. During that process, I was still getting kind of like knocks on my door. Can you come and help us with this? Can you come and help us with that? And I suppose that kind of led me to the calling of the people again. Not realizing that where I was about to head into would never have been foreseeable. Having locked a lot of our whānau up and now being on the other side, supporting and walking alongside them, was something that I never ever thought would be possible. But I've realized all things are possible. So standing in those particular spaces has allowed me to see in further without making judgment on people. But I suppose over that process and that period of trying to develop where Waiariki Whānau, or where I envisaged seeing it going at that time, the trauma or the issues that I was going through mentally, I looked at myself and thought to myself, imagine all the other people that are going through what I'm going through and don't know where to reach out to. And so when we look at Waiariki Whānau, we're about mentoring, brokering and advocating for our whānau, because I had no one advocating for me in my time. I had no one to broker or triage me into any place. I was essentially, for myself, dying in silent crisis. That's how I felt. I thought it was coming to an end, and my wife had to watch me go through that whole ordeal. But I look at that ordeal now, I had to go through that in order to understand where my hands were about to go across into communities. And my feet were about to go into a territory that not many others have ever been allowed to go into. And so when I look at that, and I look at that whakapapa from the time we set it up, going through my own mental health journey, and a lot of the whānau that we support had their own mental health issues at a high level of acuity, have addictions to all types of substances. It's my duty and responsibility to serve them, along with my rōpū, to ensure we can pull them out of those particular spaces, because it's not a nice place to be in. It's carnage. People that haven't gone through the mental health struggle will never know. It's not until you're in it that you truly understand it, and it just gives you another lever of empowerment to go, I don't want this to happen any longer to people. My role and responsibility is to serve those people and just pull them out of the shit, bro. That's pretty much it. That's making clear.
That's so like inspiring, Waata, and the thing that comes up, and that seems to be a common theme with people in service, is that the element of suffering that an individual has gone through to end the suffering that other people are going through. And, for you to be able to go through those depths, to be able to, I like the word that you used there too, like the lever, you find another lever, you find another chamber, of either grunt or compassion or aroha. And not only is there filters through yourself, because you're now at the bottom, and when you're there, there's only one way, and that's up. And so you muster whatever you need, newfound belief, new way of thinking, your capacity is stretched. And so where does that go? It has to go towards other people, It has to go towards something, and it has to go towards service. And so was that a huge, did it take a moment, bro, for you to go from realizing that you were someone who locked people up to then now being on this side and wanting to support people from going into that? Did it take a while for you to realize that, or was it a moment and then did you have to rebuild trust with whānau, or how did all that look?
It's all bits
and bobs, eh? Yeah.
Just shared. I think I always dealt with people as a police officer with as much respect and dignity as I could while working in that system. So I'm thankful for working in that governmental system, because it taught me a lot on how to understand those systems, but transfer those skills onto the other side to prevent whānau from entering back into that system. There's definitely bits and bobs to it, but I just come down to the fundamentals, irrespective of what it looks like. My whakaaro is, and my rōpū will always testify to this. Always grab people, give them a big hug, and let them know I love them. That can pull people out of our place instantly or spontaneously. There's no clinical approach to what we do, but to give aroha, like even just a hug, brother, is a big thing for people. Just to get that manaaki, sometimes that's all they're looking for. So it's about, for me, and for Waiariki, it's about keeping, it's about just getting the little things right, rather than worrying about all the other things that this ugly world can consume us, distract us, consume us, overdo us, which leads to the complexities that we face on the streets all the time. But I'm in the firm belief our own people have just forgotten how to manaaki people. And that's a really sad indictment, but it's easy for me to share.
Yeah.
Because I see it. It's an indictment on our own people.
It's happening at different kind of levels though too, eh? It's happening on even like a intimate whānau level.
Yeah.
That could be like siblings, auntie and uncles at that kind of level. Then you can see it in hapu, or the small communities, and then you're seeing it even now on a national scale.
Yeah.
And we don't even have to look too far to go global, in terms of the crises and in terms of the disconnection or the lack of kindness, that's there and being shared towards those that we care about, or even just as someone that is a stranger. And so, for those to happen on a small, I think that's where we need to actually put a lot more attention, is on the small things. It's like, how are we showing up? How are we embodying those qualities that we all have around manaakitanga, around kotahitanga, all of those kinds of things. And so, thinking about that body of studies that you have, bro, and it's I don't know if it is, but it seems to be like the foundation of Waiariki Whānau Mentoring. And can you talk about some of the findings within that, or some of the research that has taken, so that you fellas build these models of, so what is it and what's in it?
Yeah, so as I had shared, like you had alluded to, you don't hear me utilising the word organisation, because organisations have burnt our people. I just don't talk that type of language. And Waiariki is a movement of the people. It takes just a click of a finger and the people arrive. That's how fast it is in the space, because of the respect, but also the humility that we all hold collectively as one to support each other, irrespective of the creed or background or colour we come from. And so it's created, or the kaupapa was founded as a result of evidence seen by bringing our rangatira of the gangs, our wives within that space, and also our rangatahi. So we've done a research project, and it was done by Impact Research New Zealand by Dr. Annie Weir and her team. And she got the privilege to sit down with these people to capture the voice, the heartache that they had gone through during their life, not being accepted in community, being pushed to the ends of society because of who they represented or what was portrayed within community, of portrayed in terms of what it looked like. Like, I always say this. Yep, our whānau throughout the from the 1960s right throughout to this point now have caused huge chaos in the communities. I'm fully aware of that. But there comes a time and a place and a season where the shift needs to occur so they're not continue to be denigrated by people that have no experience in the space.
Mm-hmm.
And I've made that clear.
It almost creates the same cycle, eh?
Yeah.
If you keep denigrating or keep projecting the same kind of energy, it's just going to come back around.
I'm hearing less of it now.
Mm.
And I suppose that's as a result of us all coming together collectively, like Kingi Tuheitia had shared, ko tahitanga. That's what Waiariki Whānau have done within that particular space, within those particular communities, to bring our whānau together collectively in a positive way to rebuild and to restore those communities. It's a big mahi. It's actually a huge mahi. It's gut-wrenching. It pulled me apart several times in ways that I never ever thought I could be pulled apart.
And this is the cost, eh? The sacrifice, the burnout, extreme burnout that you're talking about, eh?
That leads to somewhere. But my sacrifice and the sacrifice of my rōpū is nothing in comparison to how those people that I support or we support have been treated, humiliated in many spheres. Yep, it's easy for society to denigrate, to make assumption, and then interpret. Interpret's very dangerous. Interpretation is very dangerous. It's easy to make an interpretation when you're not in the space.
Mm.
It's very easy. And rightfully so. You know, as I said earlier, community have been affected or made victims of the things that historically our whānau have done in the communities. However, it's been driven from somewhere. And unless we
address that,
you'll continue to see the same thing happen over and over again unless you get down to the root cause. That's what we do very well. We get down to the root causes of the abuse that has been caused upon the people, and we bring them into a place of light through the supports that we have so they can sit there and be proud of who they are without being denigrated or judged continuously. That the secret to what we do, and it's really not even a secret. If we go back to the marae, we sit in the whare tipuna, we have a discussion, we kōrero, and we move forward. We've just taken that philosophy and those elements into the community to manaaki whānau in a way that's conducive to how they understand through the languaging that we use that they can connect with. You don't have that, you don't have a community. Not in this particular space. I suppose we've built this over a good 7-year period now where we're trusted in those spaces to have these discussions collectively to ensure that we move positively or in a positive direction moving forward. So it's caused a ripple effect within this particular space.
And those are the ripples that need to be had too.
Yep.
You know, it's like transformative changes happening where it's needed. And I really feel like that, is it called Te Waiora?
Te Waiaio?
Te Waiaio, you know, like that research and then that knowledge and actually having a research team going in and hearing from the people and that formulating some kind of thing. But it is all of that research coming back to what you said at the start, just giving them a space of belonging and a space to feel loved.
Yeah.
And when we recognize, I suppose, you know, when I've had kōrero with people and they've gone through some kind of mamai, when we can remind them of who they are, Ray, they find a way to be able to detach from who they think they are.
Yeah.
And so if you're in that kind of way of being repeatedly stereotyped, that creates a belief system in a person to say like, I must be that. So therefore, I'm just going to behave that way. But if you allow them or remind them of a deeper truth, then gives them an opportunity to separate from their paradigm, right? Because their paradigm is a way of being. It's a complete worldview.
That's right.
But if you create a different way that, oh man, this person loves me or this place makes me feel safe, it creates a different way of being, a different way of viewing the world. And so, I really think that that's an important part there that is big, bro. And, as you were sort of talking about, you've gone through the shitter, the ringer a few times within the space. And I would love to spend a bit more time there, bro, in terms of, you as the rangatira of this kaupapa, you as the leader of Waiariki Whānau Mentoring, or, you've created this based on your own lived experiences and things that you've gone through. But you've been pushed so hard in so many ways because of the service, and because of the mahi that you do. And so what are the early signs for you around what you've experienced in terms of, okay, I'm feeling a little bit burnt out, but yep, there's whānau, they're going through worse, but I'm going to keep pushing. And so what are some of the tells there for you, Bo, around, some of the things that you've gone through in this space?
Shortness of breath. Some of those symptoms, a real lack of sleep, feeling the pressure come over you, because as I said, this is not the most advantageous space. It's not a space that anybody would walk into. People have called me crazy for walking in this space. Why do you pick the hardest things to do, Waata? Well, my whakaaro and my answer to that is because no one else will.
No one else will.
So, going through those times and those seasons, but also recognising those symptoms that I know that I am starting to feel overwhelmed, and my rōpū are very aware now. They're always watching, making sure I'm okay. They ask every day, "Are you okay? Are you well?" Some days I say, "No, I'm not actually too good," because we need to be honest with each other. How can we help you, Waata? How can we help you, rangatira? What do you need? The team, my rōpū, the family of Waiariki are always there to pick me up every step of the way. They'll do whatever they need to do to ensure that the well-being of my wife and I and my children is held upmost. They will do anything. It's, as I said, and I haven't shared, but I've shared it with my rōpū. It was only 20 weeks ago that I had to turn myself into ED. Because I was psychologically burnt out, almost killed me, and only 20 weeks ago. So I became a lot more cognizant of what that feeling actually felt like. And again, the movement of Waiariki puts me into certain places and times where the need for me to be in particular spaces, especially in times of warfare, I have to tread into those spaces, which is heavy. But I have to hold myself in those times alongside my family of Waiariki to ensure calm in the communities. And so I think of those moments that by being in this space, these are the certain things that I have to do alongside my family of Waiariki to keep people safe. That's the heavy stuff that I suppose I have to carry. And like, as I said, it's not the most advantageous mahi, but it's
not you then, hui?
Yeah. That's how we feel like sometimes. Yeah. It's I've just got an amazing rōpū, bro, that shift the streets like nobody can. Pretty much.
And that's quite it's courageous, Waata, for you to, be in these spaces and to be moving. But also the the extent that you go for the betterment of the people you serve. And the thought comes to me, bro, is like a regular, not a stereotype, but a normal person wouldn't even know what's actually happening.
No.
This is all just happening in the darkness and the silence, and no one even knows. And are fellas aware of that? Are fellas aware that, there are things that are happening in spaces that no one would even know? Yeah. Does that even bother you? Does it even matter? Or is it just like, nah, we're actually here and just focusing on the kaupapa that's at hand? Probably that, eh?
Yeah. We go on the call of the people. It's how it's always been driven with Waiariki. I don't move into regions just because I want to move. We get called into those places to go, and we go. We listen to the voices of the rangatira within those particular spaces, and if they require our presence, we shift. It's not a shift, we'll wait for another week or two. It's a shift like right now.
Immediately.
It's immediate because it's an opportunistic space that you don't move, it can cause carnage. And so it's not just working at that level, it's also me working with the ministers of the government to ensure peace and order. People may not know, but the government are big supporters of Waiariki Whānau. They're actually very good to us. There are some that wouldn't want what we're doing, but there are many that have seen the mahi that's been done on the streets, and now we're being valued for that. I suppose that's a beautiful thing. We've had to really, really, really work hard to get to where we are to support the people, and, we're thankful for that. We're thankful for that support because there was a real concern around the legislation around the patches, around a new government coming into place and doing what they need to do in terms of being in power. But I'm a person just looks past that stuff. I can't be bothered. What I am bothered about is ensuring that the needs of my people are met. And I'll go any place that I need to ensure we are valued for what we do. And I won't stop until I get what we need. But I always do it in a way that's, challenges and tests the system in many spheres, but I always do it with aroha. If I can't portray aroha, then for me it becomes a business transaction. But if I can portray aroha in the community in terms of those that we serve, I can portray aroha anywhere.
True.
And so that's what I do. I never get angry at the system. I get frustrated at the system. But there's some great people in there that understand the needs of what we require on the ground, and they'll do their best to go and find it for us. But when it comes to this particular space, I take no backward step and no one tells me what to do. Nor do they tell Waiariki Whānau or try and dictate what we do when it comes to these specific populations. And I suppose that's the mana that we hold collectively as a family of Waiariki, is that as long as we keep to the same messaging and the narrative is consistent and not changing it to conform to a system, it will always be what you see it in its truest form now. In no way, shape or form as the rangatira for Waiariki will I ever allow that to change, ever. Because then I just become like everything else that's in the communities without accessing the people.
I see you get like really emotional when you talk about, your whānau and whānau, Waiariki Whānau. And it just sort of like shows, just how much aroha you have, for the people that are around you. And I even heard you say that like a couple of times, you know, when you're standing up in front of everyone and letting them know like the significance of the day. And it wasn't even about the people that were coming, but you reminded them that, you know, it's because of you, you know, and I love you. And so, you know, not only are you creating a safe space for people out there, but it's like it trickles down, You know, when we look at kaupapa and services, the impact on the ground has to start from the top, But that is influenced by what's happening on the ground. And it just feels like you're so in tune with all of that, that if you don't have the people at the front, if you don't have the people you're serving at the forefront of your mind, if you aren't grateful for the people around you, then you lose yourself, You lose yourself into what you would say, the system of how everyone else is. So can you talk about that, bro, in terms of the value you have on your team, on your whānau? And just maybe even some key people that come to mind.
They're a beautiful family, Waiariki Whānau. They are my family. I don't treat them as employees. They're my family. Again,
how many employees do you have across?
Yeah, we've got over 60.
Yeah,
over 60 of us at Waiariki across the movement of the kaupapa at present. That continues to grow with the demand of the voice of the people. And so we'll continue to grow as long as the people want us. That's as simple as it is. My philosophy has always been is not to use a business mindset when working in a space such as this, because people don't require business people with respect to trying to navigate their lives from a health perspective, if I can say that. What they just need is leaders that are going to listen to their voice and help them to find the solutions that they require to get through some of the things that they're facing. I suppose my leadership has always just demonstrated aroha, being there for people at a time when they call me. What that has done is it's permeated across the whole of Waiariki, where my rōpū will support the people at the time of any phone call. We're not bounded by a referral process, which most use. We are bounded by the voice of the people that require us at that time. When you have that type of methodology in terms of how to support people in their time of need, they don't want to worry about a piece of paper that has a referral process on it. You need to fill this out. I just allow my rōpū to manaaki the whānau, to awhi the whānau through that process, to build that relationship and trust to get them to their next point. And I think, because evidence shows that through the whole referral process, bro, and I'll come to this in a second, is that through the referral process, evidence shows it takes 9 days to 3 months for the first engagement. Within that 0 to 9 days, you can see repeated reports of family harm. You can see repeated levels of offending. You can see all that stuff happening within that particular space. Waiariki Whānau engage within the first 24 hours. That's why I said earlier, we're a net catcher to what we're seeing across in the communities. We don't conform ourselves to a referral process. Of course, we have to go through that. But right at the time of the need of the people, it's about the people, not about a piece of paper. We'll get that stuff sorted out later. And I suppose through that evidence and that research, Waiariki Whānau will respond within the first 24 hours. Most times it's within the first 15 minutes. Because the rōpū just shift. Yeah. You know, my rōpū are street savvy, bro? They know how to move. They know every perpendicular stone on those streets. I make no qualms about it. We're a street movement. My rōpū, bro, know how to shift anything you could imagine on the streets. They are remarkable. I've seen it for myself because I'm a part of it. but to see them shift the streets to ensure calm and peace across the community, or to enter a home to ensure that the tamariki and the wahine are safe. It's those things I'm talking about. It's not a risk, we talk about, there's always a level of, course there's a level of risk. But we don't want to sound like a construct where risk then prevents us from accessing whānau
Who need it.
Who
are already in risk.
Yeah, that's right. And so I've moved those barriers with my rōpū. They'll liaise with me directly, and then I'll support that whole process through. But understanding, because we work in a particular space where I have relationships with rangatira, mitigates any of the potential risks when our rōpū enter. Having that element alongside of me allows my rōpū to safely move into spaces where others would just go, keeping out, I'm not going anywhere near that.
Or the opposite of being too hostile.
Too hostile. Yeah. I suppose at times we get called hostile. And we have. Because of the way in which we do what we do in the community. I've been called hostile. I don't really care. For me, I don't really care what people think. I just don't. I'll be as hostile as I need to be to ensure the needs of my people are met. And I suppose that's where those relationships come from, very high up, right down onto the ground floor or right down to the grassroots of what we do. The narrative is the same everywhere. We don't shift the messaging, we don't shift the whakaaro, we just stay in that place of equity to ensure that our kōrero stays the same.
Integrity.
Honesty.
Mana.
Some people are not going to, as I said, be looking at this and going, oh, whatever. Or there's some crazy shit. Or he's just pulling funding from government. I hear it all the time, all that type of nonsense. You come into the space, come and do the mahi, and then you'll really understand the power and the mana of what Waiariki holds in these communities. Until you do that, I always just tell people to shut their mouths. Unless you walk it, unless you're in it, and you keep quiet, we'll continue to do what we need to do. Yeah. I'm saying that in a beautiful way, by the way.
Yeah.
But
that's just the passion. Hey, that's the passion, that's the value, but that's also the evidence.
Yeah.
The evidence there is the impact, it's the result, it's the whānau actually moving through towards their light. And, what are some of those, we could call it testimonies, or what are some of those things that you've seen in terms of the shift in some of our whānau who have been perhaps in te kore or in te pō, and what has been some of the stories that you can share around whānau coming out of particular states of crises or out of just shifts within themselves? What are some of those things that you can share?
Yeah, without naming, part of my workforce are those that used to come to the attention while I was in the police.
Right.
I've purposely done it like that because there's a relationship building aspect within that environment. But as we've all journeyed through, you can see all these changes, all these transformations that they're making in the community. It would only be right for me to sit down around the table with those specific people and say, hey, I'm so proud of you for what you're doing. Look at where you've come from. Look at, from the time of me chasing you as a police officer to the time now where you're adding pro-socially to the community and you're making these drastic transformations. But they've gone, those that I'm talking about, and there's quite a lot of them, bro, they deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the fact of Waata employing them because they've got a lived experience, the fact that they're a part of the movement of Waiariki is because they are the change agents of the space for the country, bro. I'll make no qualms about it. They are change agents for the country. And unless we give authority or we give opportunity for them to navigate the specific spaces that we're in now, there's no use me doing what I'm doing. Hey, I haven't lived the life that they've lived. Yep, I have a lived experience, but not the one that they have. I've just given people opportunity, multiple people opportunity that I've seen that have made the changes, and through those changes and transformation, giving them the opportunity to be a part of the movement. We call them like whānau champions as an example. Champions of the kaupapa, or champions of te waiaio, which is our, as I shared earlier, our model. They become the role model for the model. And so essentially, as I said, the reflection is the key in this particular moment. But like as I said, there's a few that I used to chase as police officers. Some of them are now employed with Waiariki Whānau. But we're talking about a 10 to 15 year transformation. We're not just talking transformed in 6 months.
Nah.
We're talking about milestone after milestone after milestone. Bro, I want to value that. Because they can only do what they can do. Not many other people can do what they do. So they're those community connectors. Those are the kaimahi that hold mana in our communities. And so stuff from, I've pulled men out of prison, bro, who are now working for me. But they've progressed and they've shown the change that they've made. You know, who is it for me to make a judgment on the past when I can see the new and see the impact that they can have on the society as a whole to help educate not just the whānau, but the community as a whole? Who am I to hold that back? I'm just me at the end of the day, giving people opportunity to be able to be who they are by being that pro-social person in the community to bring about the transformation in those particular spaces. And I've got no qualms in sharing this stuff anymore, because for me, it is what it is, but we have the evidence to back up everything that we do. It's not just pulling things out of somewhere. We've created something that holds power and mana within our particular space to bring people in, or to bring whānau in that have the ability to connect with the people. Because they don't want to speak to a bunch of clinicians. They don't want to speak to a bunch of, and when I talk clinicians, I'm talking, say, governmental here. They're just not interested. There's no equity or access point in that process. Our whānau, the kaimahi within Waiariki, become the access point. They are the conduit. They are the gate for our whānau that are reaching out for those particular supports.
Wow, man. So the kaimahi that you have are the testimonies. And there's probably countless amount of, people who are receiving, good things from the services. And that's even just someone picking up the phone, and what that does to a person, or walking through the door and knowing that the door is open. It's all of those kinds of little things that I guess stack up, to the value and the impact. And I want to share this whakaaro with you, something that I've been really, I guess, passionate about is this concept that I've been developing about brother to brother, because a lot of our tāne out there aren't doing so well. You've talked about crises that you've been in terms of mental health challenges. I've been through my own challenges, and there's a lot of tāne who feel isolated within the things that they're going through and the things that the weight, particularly coming to the stage of the year as well, coming into Christmas, New Year's, it actually creates a sense of weight because of the societal expectations around either providing holidays or presents or whatever that looks like, and that can get a lot for a tāne. And things that I've even seen within research is that this is a common time for a lot of tāne to feel that pressure and to feel that weight. And so, I just want to give it over to you, bro, around what are some things that you either have seen or things that you utilize yourself around supporting yourself or supporting others during this time. And so the intention is there could be a brother going through it, and us talking about it is us being his brother in this moment. So, what are some kōrero around that, brother?
This year, this time of the year, I mentioned to my rōpū about 3 weeks ago, and now I need to be on guard. We know this is coming into the season. They call it the silly season. We know that crises exacerbate during this time of the year. We had one so recently, but I can't disclose what's happened. It's real serious, like serious, really, really, really serious. But if I talk about the day-to-day stuff in, say, for example, tāne presenting, we just sit down, whakawhiti kōrero with the brothers. I was actually with 2 this morning. Whakawhiti kōrero, talk about it's just a normal but real raw conversation. Me as the person I am, I listen. I hear. I observe rather than talking over the top of, which is what they're used to, always been spoken. Oh, this is what you need to do. You need this, you need that. Like, they've been told that for the last 20, 30, 40 years. They just want someone to listen to them. So some of the situations that we have at the moment, that I'm seeing at the moment, obviously a lot of it is around peer support. Being there at their time of desperation and wanting to share kōrero, but actually also being there and congratulating them on the milestones that they're reaching as well, not just talking about the stuff that they're currently going through, but also acknowledging some of the good stuff that they're doing in that moment. Hey, it takes courage to reach out.
Exactly.
In this particular space that we work in, historically, they don't reach out to nobody. Now we have 79% of them reaching out to us. That's what it's showing us. They're coming to us because we're trusted in the space that we work in. We don't have to go out and fetch and find people. They're rolling in through our doors. So we know that when we get that opportunity, when the whānau are rolling in through our doors, that's the best opportunity ever, just to sit down and listen to them. Because no one else is going to listen to them. No one's listened to them for the last 65 years. So why do we, it's just been a listening ear, bro. Like, it's real simple stuff. But I think even people have forgotten to listen. Mm-hmm. And they just
want to fill that space, eh?
Yeah. For me, it's just keeping things really, really simple. It's like the world has made everything so complicated.
Yeah.
And that happens every day in the space at Waiariki, and irrespective of what location you're in. Mm. The team, my rōpū, my family, are very, very, are very good listeners. But I suppose in terms of myself, I've got a beautiful wife who stands alongside me. She's very humble, very, very quiet. But when my wife speaks, everybody listens. Mm-hmm. So I'm thankful to have my beautiful wife like yourself, bro, having our beautiful wives alongside of us. And always remind our tāne in this particular space, you make sure you look after your partners and your wives, please. Mm-hmm. You make sure you look after them. I always remind them, whether or not they're kaimahi within Waiariki or the whānau that we serve. I always make it clear, make sure you look after your wives and your partners, because they're always there at the times that we need them most. And sometimes I believe, brother, we don't acknowledge that enough.
No.
Yeah, they're the bedrock,
100%.
And so
even that's been coming up quite a lot in a lot of conversations that I have been having with tāne too. It's that realization, around how how important, our wahine are, and to hold them at that regard, rather than having that kind of way of thinking around like, oh, they're always going to be there and just sort of brushing it off. But it's actually sitting in that sense of they're always going to be there, that real, like allow that to be expressed and to be felt and for it to be proven through action and how we actually look after our wahine, because as you say, they look after us so well, even in our lowest and vice versa. But I really want to endorse that kōrero too, just for our tāne to look after our wahine, to look after your wives. And I think the best way that we can actually do that is through really looking after ourselves too.
Yep.
Because if we're not feeling good, we actually can't really do too much for anyone else, because we're just trying to survive or trying to get through in that survival mode. But, what are some tools, you've been post 20 weeks, you were in A&E, and like, what are some of the things that you've put in place to look after yourself, Waata? What are some of those things that you're doing at the moment to keep yourself regulated or to keep yourself in a more healthier space?
I know where I'm going into a space of elevation where I'll try and take myself out of certain spaces that potentially may trigger me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm able to read on that or to gather those thoughts pretty quickly. One of the places I actually like to go to is to resilience. Just to sit down and have a coffee. That's
so resilience is this coffee shop you're speaking about.
That's the space that I go to breathe.
Mean smoothies, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. It's the space I go to breathe, brother. It kind of takes me out of the mahi space, and it just gives me time just to sit down with other kaimahi too that come and grab their coffees in the morning and just connect up without talking mahi. It's a safe space for me, resilience, but it's also a space where I just go to breathe before my day commences or starts. No day is the same for me, so I've got to be really, really conscious of how I move. It's lucky I've got an awesome EA who also schedules in my appointments.
Awesome.
And is very conscious of not loading me up. So there'll be a couple of days a week at the moment that I'm not. There's no loading. It just allows me to move flexibly, but things always happening. Then the next day I could have 7 hui. So it's a balancing act in terms of making sure that I look after myself. I've just started hitting the hill again.
Nice.
So I've just started to, because I ruptured my Achilles a year ago, completely snapped it. So I'm just learning how to walk properly again. So I'm starting to, there's one thing that I love, and I love the maunga. I've done it thousands and thousands of times. It's where I'm able to re-energize myself by feeling the sweat or the water running across my face. That's when I feel as though I've done something.
Yeah. Bro, that's like quite notorious as you running mokoro and just your whole bloody head just dripping and sweating and just like the bro's getting after it.
So I've just started to implement that, but I'm also just involved in kids touch rugby, and I love it. I've sat in the adult sporting environment for a long, long time and given so much of my time to adult sport. I'm actually giving it back to the kids now, and I love it, bro. It's just cool being around beautiful young people that we can have a positive influence over and continue to nurture them in the right way. Cool. So those are some of my things that I do. Or mowing the lawns, brother, cutting the grass.
Small things again,
I love that. Just people go, oh, mow the lawns. I said, I love mowing my lawns. I love getting into the gardens.
Yeah.
Those are the things that I like and helps me to
have time for you, eh? Yeah. It's like therapy, eh?
It is therapy.
Yeah. I really resonate with that.
Yeah.
in terms of doing the lawns, and Hine Pani has been doing them like these last couple of weeks because she likes doing them too, you know. So I also just really like how there's different ways to be able to fill your cup. It doesn't have to be like a full-on 2-hour workout or meditation, but it could be just going for a coffee at your favorite spot. It could be as you're saying, like giving like coaching like kids sports, or it could be just going for a walk in the maunga, doing the lawns, and it's just whatever resonates like with you. And I think that's the important thing is like, what do you like to do? Just do that, and before I pass it over to you to finish, bro, I really want to talk about, resilience, because you opened my eyes that day, and you have not only a coffee shop, but there's cabinet food, there's smoothies, there's awesome coffee, there's seating places, but right behind it, there's a community shopping center, that is all on points. And so what you shared with me, and you might want to speak on this more, but the cool thing about it is that everyone who buys a coffee there, the profits go straight back into that community supermarket so that the shelves can be restocked. And so whānau are able to really fill up their cupboards at a way cheaper cost, which is another way that you're giving back to these much needed communities. So resilience isn't just a coffee shop. It's a I would say a charity that really is you not only getting something for yourself, but your investment is actually going to something so much bigger than just a coffee or a business. And so, I just want to mihi to that, bro, that whakaaro nui, that awesome, thought process, and doing it without government funding or anything like that, and just be like, nah, the people need this, we need to do this, and it all aligns to Waiariki Whānau Mentoring, bro. So I just want to acknowledge that, because I just thought it was just really cool just to be in there as we had that catch up last week. So I just want to give it over to you, brother. If there's anything on your heart, if there's anything at the top of your mind that you would like to leave with the people who are listening, the people that are watching, I just want to give it over to you, my bro.
Yeah, no, thank you, my bro. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity just to kōrero, and I suppose be vulnerable at times too, and sharing with you, and you being congratulated on your mahi as well that you're doing through your through this type of kaupapa to bring awareness and education to people. You must be commended for that too, bro. So well done to you and your beautiful wife and your tamariki. We are, resilience is, as you said, is not just a coffee shop. The kupu resilience obviously shares quite a poignant element with respect to us as a people having to be resilient in everything that we've had to do in life to get us into the positions that we are now in terms of influence, but just getting stuff done and doing it with purpose and righteousness. So the reason for the kupu resilience was for that fact that we've had to be such a resilient people to get to where we are today. The resilience is also from a broader picture, like as you had shared, it's not a profit-making venture. So Resilience Coffee Shop is not a profit-making venture. All the profits from the coffee shop go back into the social supermarket to keep the shelves full to feed all people. And that is a starkly different model than many models out there where it's for profits and it goes into someone's pocket, not ours. It goes back to the people. That whakaaro I have used ever since I started Waiariki. I don't need money, but what we do have is the people. As long as you have the people, then the movement of Waiariki Whānau through the waters of Te Waiai will continue to shift us into spheres and paradigms that we would not think possible. So we've had to be such a resilient people to do what we need to do to navigate different paradigms to shift to where we need to get the supports to the people. And the reason why I share that is because we're not dictated by anything, but we're adherable as servants to our people, that require us. As long as that whakaaro stays the same, the movement of the people through Waiariki Whānau Mentoring will continue to be sustainable in the long term to ensure that our tamariki that have been brought up out of those environments have the best opportunity to flourish. So, I think that's kind of like a really important way to bring our the kōrero to a close through being resilient and manaaki and awhin the people that we would best see fit in order to bring calm and peace, but most of all, to be the guiding light for our tamariki who are coming through. So once again, my brother, just if whānau and Whakatāne, please call into Resilience Coffee Shop, come and grab your coffee, come and have a kōrero. Just come and be a part of something that is just driven by the people.
That is way bigger than any individual. So if you are in Whakatāne, make that your new local. If you're passing through Whakatāne for whatever reason, make sure you stop in that resilience and, just be a part of something that, you can feel a part of. Because as we sort of said at the start, everyone wants a place to feel like they belong and everyone wants a space to feel aroha. Yeah. And that's one place here in Whakatāne that you can feel those two things regardless of who you are. And I also just want to mihi to you, brother, for the journey that you've been on, not just in these last 7 years, but for everything that has transpired to actually create this new chapter. Revolutionary in terms of being in this active space of service, really reaching those corners and those trenches that haven't been given as much hope and as much light. So for it to span, through not just Whakatāne, but into Rotorua, Tokoroa, over to the Waikato, and those other communities that I may have missed. It's just speaking to the volume and the impact that one man's vision, one man's dream has created. So, i runga i tērā, bro. Just want to continue to back you in the mahi that you're doing, the opportunities that you're giving to all of the whānau with lived experiences, but the amount of support that you're wrapping around our whānau that are out there. The one thing that I actually sort of like want to finish off with here too is for that person who might be going through something that is listening. That's all you need is just someone to listen. And maybe this is for someone who is in that position of supporting someone, is ask, do you want me to give any whakaaro, or are you just wanting someone to listen? That's a really good prompt as well. Is sometimes we try and give so much advice, Wata, and they don't even need that. They just actually just want you to listen and just sit there and hold space. And so there's so many things here. So to our whānau who are listening, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll put some links down below. Maybe there's some things that we can get from Waata around for people in those communities that if you are going through something and you do need someone to call out to, I'll make sure to put some numbers down there for you to plug in. So i runga i tērā, brother. Thank you.
Tēnā koe,
and to everyone else watching. See you in the next one.
Kia ora.
Ngā mihi. Beautiful, brother.
Wow.